Welcome to The Source with your host, Dr. C.T. Curry, and co-host Coby Owens. News all across the nation. The Source. Stay in the loop in the city of Wilmington, Delaware. Work together for change in the community. A call to action to find the resources. The Source, the latest in news.
Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Coby Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Coby, it is a wonderful report to say that there have been absolutely no shootings that we are aware of. The community appears to be safe, yet it's cold.
It is cold. It is cold. And why there's been no shootings, there has been one major development, and that is my Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Is that why everybody's chilling?
Listen, that's why everyone's chilling. We're all happy right now, showing some love to one another. But the Eagles won the Super Bowl. That's all I care about. Yeah,
I was going to ask you because the old folks told us you don't wear your hats inside, but I see you will not take that hat off today.
It's a special hat. So on the side, it has the Super Bowl logo on it and everything.
I tell you, got official.
It was a little better winning this go round, mainly because President Trump was in the house rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he actually left at halftime. He was so upset. Yeah. So again, shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles for doing it.
They played. Listen, I had a Eagles. I had a championship, not championship. What do you call it?
Watch party
at our home, and the people were just screaming the whole night. And it wasn't screaming up, no, 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 no. It was like yes, yes, yes. And it was really a great opportunity to see the electrifying moments of our team really playing. I mean, they played, and they came to win. Because if the refs would have gotten a part of that, I'm sure it would have not turned out the way it did, but they beat them so bad until they couldn't rig that up.
I know that's right.
And when the cameras didn't show Trump often, but when they showed him leaving, I said, that's how it works. you can't win, so you go ahead and move on. And there was no invite to the White House. Why?
Well, last time the Eagles won, they did not get invited to the Trump White House. The Eagles they are a very political team, and very outspoken team compared to some of the other teams around the league. And they have been very outspoken about, the Trump administration the first go round, and members of the Eagles have been very outspoken about this new initiatives that he's taken, the new executive orders, and how they're impacting people. So again, he sees it as his enemies. But I see them as Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, and I see them as Super Bowl champs, and I see them as champions of a good cause too, because they just really are just showing up and doing very well. I'm also very proud of the fact that the Lord blessed this earth 30 years last Thursday with your presence. Yes. There are many people who watch us and they say, Curry, the Coby guy is just really on spot and on point. Well, for those of you who are watching us today, on Thursday, Coby celebrated his 30th birthday. And if I was a singer, I would sing. I can't sing. All I can do is talk. So happy birthday, Coby. What did you do? I heard there was a council meeting.
Yeah, it was actually first time, because I was actually born on President's Day. So it's always weekend, snowstorm, something. I never had to go to school or work until my 30th birthday. I showed up. Not only did I show up at work, but I also showed up for our council meeting at that night as well too. So,
but there was a prediction that it would be a bad snowstorm.
I know, and it didn't happen. Yeah. Again, that's the best job to probably have in the world. Yeah. Is to be a meteorologist. Yeah. But again, who knows what may happen after. I love the snow. I want one more snow before the end of the month.
Okay, well, you can have it. And I'm from Philadelphia, and I used to love snow. I don't have any problem with driving in any of that stuff. But here recently, it's been cold, and the snow have just made it even colder, I feel.
But see, that I don't mind the cold if it's snowing. Now, if it's not going to snow, you could take the cold somewhere else.
Okay. Well, we're getting ready to run into the spring, so it's getting ready to start seeing more daylight and things of that nature. So hats off to the Philadelphia Eagles, as you all have done a phenomenal job in making us proud. And Delaware is really an Eagles team, a state too, because I went to several stores trying to get additional gear and could not really find it. People were really, we had a couple of staff persons who just called out Rodney. I told the church joking. I said, listen, y'all call out, and if you get fired, I'll pray for you. But I guess some of my staff took that to heart, and one brother called out. Matter of fact, the person who was behind the cameras called out, and his whole family was down there, and he's sending posts saying that this is happening, this is going on, and all the excitement. So hats off to the Eagles, and I'm very proud of them.
Yes.
And also hats off to the city of Wilmington, because, we have been reporting all the shootings and things that were going on. So for the last couple of weeks, especially during the first initial time of Mayor Carney's position as mayor, we've not really had any true strong violence in the city. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm hoping and praying that this is a trajectory that will continue to last, for a little bit longer. There was, however, a interesting crash at the mall, where several people, almost 8 people, got injured in this crash. And I don't understand any of the details of it, other than I know a lot of them were older people. Do you know anything about it? Yeah.
So on the backside of the mall where the fashion center is, which are the new extended where the Trader Joe's is, over there was a bad accident that involved individuals getting trapped in their car and then another car being on fire. Most of the individuals involved with this were of older age. Approximately an 80-year-old woman was taken to Christiana Hospital in serious condition. A 78-year-old woman was also taken to the hospital, but in stable condition. And then a driver of another car, who was a 37-year-old woman, was also taken to the hospital in stable condition. The 5 others were checked out for minor injuries and was able to go home from the accident themselves. So again, continue to pray for everyone who's still in the hospital, and glad that the 5 others had no serious injuries.
Right. And we are praying for them, for those who are still there. And have you heard any reasons for what could have caused it? I know exactly where it happened. Did a person run a light?
So they think someone ran the light, and it's a pretty bad. So the SUV ran the red light and hit the car. Who was driving which, I don't know. But from the pictures of it was a pretty intense. Someone had to be going at a high speed.
Right. Yeah. Well, please be safe and be careful out there, because there's so much going on. Also in the city of Wilmington last Monday for President's Day, they decided that they wanted to do a protest.
Yes.
Elon Musk is crazy. And he's doing some shocking and interesting things. How does this help us in their protests? Because that's how I'll start off this.
So the protest was planned by 302 United and Indivisible Highlands. And this was a part of the national movement to have protests at state capitals, large cities. And the theme was "Not My President, President's Day," saying that Elon Musk is an unelected overseer of President Trump, and what they're doing, people aren't going to stand by and do nothing. I think when you have things like this, you're getting people who traditionally would not speak out, who are now seeing these headlines, aren't liking it. It gets them more involved with it, right? But it's not just about the protest, right? It's about the follow-up. What is the direct action you want? So their message at this one was continuing to reach out to our federal delegation, continuing to work with our General Assembly to make sure we're putting protections up here in Delaware to protect us as things get rolled back on the federal level, but continuing to push our federal delegation and giving them support as they're trying to fight back as well, too.
Yeah. Well, but it seems like even though I saw McBride had made some comments regarding the changes and the manipulation that the Trump team is trying to do and to bring about what they are doing. But what power do they have? Even though that's really where I was. What power do the Democrats have to be even, and it's going to come up later on in the show too, to really do anything?
Listen, you know me, you know, I believe in the power of the vote. And Trump was duly elected. So was the Republican majority in both the Senate and the House. Now, what I believe did happen was during his first term, he was able to steal 2 U.S. Supreme Court seats. Mm-hmm. And because of that, the third, there's 3 branches. You have the executive, White House, you have the legislative, House and Senate, and then you have the Supreme Court, which is lifetime appointments. The Supreme Court is supposed to be the check and balance on the 2 electeds. Mm. And it's supposed to be fair. Presidents get to nominate if it's their term. But because they held for a year, Mayor Garland up in the Senate when Obama nominated him. And then in the last month of the election, rushed through Amy Coney Barrett to put her on in 2020. The Supreme Court is now a Republican court. And because of that, there is no checks and balances right now in government. We have never had it like this ever before. And we're truly seeing tyranny happen. We are seeing Trump run rampant. He's been given unlimited power and no one is checking because they're so scared of him on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, they're trying to fight back. But I think it's 2 things. You have some leaders who are also too ingrained in the DC culture to really understand what is going on and how this is impacting the average person. And 2, you're not controlling your own narrative. So even though you're in the minority, you can control the narrative of what is going on and how this is impacting people. If I was the Democratic Senate leader or the minority leader in the House, I would be having my best speakers, regardless of their ideology. I would have my individuals who have the most following on regularly being the highlights of our caucus, right? That's AOC. That's Chris Murphy up in Connecticut. That's Brian Schatz in Hawaii, who's a senator. That's Ayanna Pressley. People who, and Jasmine Crockett from Texas, right? These are people who understand and know messaging, but because they're not as senior as other individuals, they get pushed down so that the more senior individuals, and I'm not talking about age-wise, I'm talking about down there in DC. In both the Senate and the House, it works off of seniority, right? So our new senator, Lisa Blunt Rochester, I think she's the 92nd ranked in seniority, right? But she's a great messenger, right? But because she's so low on that chart, she won't get as much play as someone who's in the top 50 or in the top 20 of seniority down there.
Yeah, and but what you're saying, Trump is doing.
Yes.
You know, it's really interesting. People saying, well, how is he able to get his message out so strongly? Because he recognized I'm going to tap into, and they know not to cross him. So they're going to tap in. But I did see a couple of Republicans, I think they were senators, who came up against some of the things that he's doing with the whole notion of what's going on over in the war.
Yes.
The Russian and
with Ukraine and Russia. So J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, who's our Secretary of State, have been pushing to remove sanctions from Russia. This is upsetting State Department officials who've been there for a long time working on these sanctions, and it's upsetting some of the Republican senators. But Trump is hitting back against them, saying, oh, well, y'all all voted for Rubio to be the Secretary of State. He's your former colleague. He was the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee. Give him some grace. And some of them have backed off, but some of them are saying, look, at the end of the day, if we loosen the sanctions on Russia, that's just going to be more of an issue for the USA, but then also allow their ability to grow in that region, right? You're going to overtake Ukraine, and they're going to go after the Baltic states after that, right? So again, and then that will pull us into a world war because we're a part of NATO. And if he goes after the Baltic states, a lot of them that we work with already, that pulls us in.
Do you think Trump will even let us come in? Because he's not a fan. He's a fan of Putin.
He is a fan of Putin. I think Trump will try to delay us entering in it, but I think he will face a ton of political pressure, especially from the war hawks in his own party who they wait for moments like this.
Okay. Now, you said earlier, you talked a little bit about the Supreme Court being really a Republican Supreme Court. The Democrats had an opportunity to increase the Supreme Court. Why didn't they?
Because they could not break the filibuster because of Joe Manchin and Sinema. So in order to expand the Supreme Court, as of right now, with the filibuster, you would need 60 U.S. senators to agree to it to get it past the culture vote, which is just saying, okay, now we could take this to a regular vote. And then I believe it's only a simple majority after that, right? They could not get to those 60 votes. So they could have changed the rules. All you need is 51 senators to change the rules.
Okay, that's right.
To create a carve out for democracy to be able to expand the courts or expand voting rights or whatsoever. And they could have got that done if it was not for Sinema, who is now retired, and Joe Manchin, who's also now retired.
And both of them, interesting. So, but if Trump wanted to do that, he can do that right now.
Yes.
Because he got enough votes.
Correct. They can change it anytime they want.
This is really sad. It's really sad. And that's why, when I asked about the protests, what can one do? Nothing too much right now. But I agree with you 100%. We're going to have to start going after those persons who can articulate the message, because the message seems to be sad and quiet. It's like we're going to just be quiet until it's time for election. But if his message stays as strong as it is, he will shiest the people through the next election. And as much as we will want to take back the House, take back the Senate, it won't happen if the messaging is not right.
Right.
People are feeling their pocketbooks is still, matter of fact, it costs more now than it was while Biden was in. But he's telling everybody he's going to give us a check. Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah, but listen, at the end of the day, my electric's up. Eggs cost $10. Gas is going up. Gas is up $1.17 more since Trump's been in office, right? And again, it's real funny now that the Trump administration and their press secretary is saying, oh, the president has nothing to do with gas prices, has nothing to do with egg prices, has nothing to do with this and that.
Right.
But you'll spend how many hundreds of millions of dollars saying it was Biden's fault, and people believed it.
Yeah.
And now some of these same people who I've talked to say, oh, I'm not voting for Harris because Biden made the eggs expensive. Are now complaining, oh, why is it so expensive? What did Biden do on his way out? No.
Yeah.
No. It was $2.58 when Biden was in, and that's expensive.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. It is $10.37.
It's not good. That's just not good. And I love eggs. And now they got a limit on how many you can get because that flu virus is coming in. We're going to spend some time at some point talking about the whole cabinet because there's a whole lot of kooky things going on.
I'm about to get my own chickens, put them in my backyard.
Not in the city of Wilmington. I don't think they'll let you do that.
It's emotional support animal.
Oh, Lord, he done found the legal way of getting around the rule. One last thing before we go to a commercial break. You talked about how even it's expensive to pay Delmarva.
Yeah.
And Delmarva have been going around to civic associations. They stopped here in Southbridge. They did something with city council. They gone a couple of places trying to justify and to clarify what is going on. And the state is, to my understanding, going to do some legislation. Two things. One, if you know anything about the legislation, can you tell us a little bit about it? And two, will this legislation affect us being able to get the prices lower? So
one, Delmarva is saying that they're willing to set up payment plans. They're not going to cut off people's electric during the winter time, yada, 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 yada. They have a 3% increase that is implemented during the winter months, right? December, January, February. they have no formula on how much a delivery cost would be. And I get it. Everyone's delivery cost is going to be different. They're saying, oh, well, it took more to use the same level of electricity that you currently use to warm your house, right? So if you keep it at 70 and it's only 62 outside, that's 8 degrees you need to warm your house. But if it's 40 outside, that's 30 degrees you need to warm your house. I get that, right? It was colder in December and January than the previous 2 years. But even though the last 5 years, from 24 to 2019, we used less electricity, but still saw increases in our bills.
Right,
so it's just a money grab.
Yeah.
But also the point I raised with them, and they tried to talk around it, was, all right, you're saying if I use more energy, can you tell me what is the rate per kilowatt that I'm using that you're charging me?
Mm.
Oh, well, it's based on where you live. So you just make up a number and charge me?
Not good. But yeah, because there's no regulation.
My delivery is now more than my actual usage.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
It does not.
And we do have a public advocate here in Delaware, and we have a public service commission as well, too, that has some oversight over that. But Delmarva is a company owned by Exelon that had $1 billion net profits last year, and they're going to have $1 billion net profits this year. They just had their strongest quarter ever, right? Off our backs. But this little, we won't cut off your electric for this month, and we'll give you 12 months to pay back the money that you owe us for January, February. No.
Especially not when they should not have been charged those rates from the first place. And that's why every time I hear it, I had to leave the Civic Association meeting, because when I heard that we're not going to cut people off, we're going to return on, but they still got to pay. Right. We're looking for some resolution where, one, they can give back money to those who are overcharged, which was everybody. Yep. And also, how do we make sure that there's some regulation to be able to, if you can't tell me how you're charging me, you shouldn't be charging me. Correct.
And here's the thing also, and some people may not have seen changes. If you haven't, let me explain it to you and why this is such a big issue. People who were paying, let's say $215 a month, right? Mm-hmm. This is a bill I've seen. You budget for that, even if you're a little short, you'll pay a little extra the next month. $215. Because of such a spike, this isn't a little spike. Mm-hmm. People's bill went from $215 to $850.
It was horrible.
That is a huge difference. Mm-hmm. That is, all right, now I can't get my medicine this month. Maybe I can't pay my phone bill. Maybe, I can't pay my car note or something. Then the car may get repoed. That is a huge, huge impact on people. And it's not just the working class, it's seniors, it's individuals who are retired, people who are on fixed incomes. It is not good business whatsoever. And the General Assembly was very slow on the uptick with this, but I will give a hats off to Representative Deb Heffernan, has introduced a bill that looks to redirect funds that are already available in the state to supplement the existing low-income home energy assistance program, which is income-based programming, but then also create a Delaware Energy Fund that will administer SEU and recipients, so gas recipient or electric recipients, assistance funds required to help with their savings, right? To help pay their electric bills. So those will be direct payments. The act is to be sunset in 3 years. So it gives us time to figure some other things out as well, too. Unfortunately, as of right now, it is only Democrats on the bill. It's not bipartisan, but they should have the votes to get this passed.
Yeah, but this is the problem I'm having. And for those of you who are listening to what I'm getting ready to say, please do not take it that I'm not for the poor, because I am. But one of the problems I find with liberal Democrats is that they make sure that those who are poor are the only ones who are cared for. There are people who are working every day.
Yes.
or middle class residents of this state who live paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth. They are suffering too. You made, in your analogy, you talked about the car note, you talked about the insurance, you talked about those things. It's difficult. Now, I understand for those who are the poorest among us, we got to take care of them. And I'm with that. And the reason why sometimes I'm not with some of these bills is because it is not wide enough.
So the Delaware Energy Fund, that is not income based.
Oh, okay.
That's for customers who receive electric from Delmarva. The LIHEAP is the additional money that they're putting in to also help individuals who are income based as well too, who still may have seen even bigger of an increase than what they are.
Okay.
So we'll get the energy fund money. And then they're increasing the amount of money for LIHEAP as well too. So LIHEAP can help more people as well.
So that has not passed yet, right?
No, it was just introduced Wednesday this past week.
All right. So what we'll do is
the General Assembly is still out.
And we're going to make sure we follow that so that we can get the information to people so they can go and apply. Because sometimes only the privileged get the information. I want to make sure that happens. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
This land we love belongs to all of us. Yet not everyone is treated equally. Right now, millions of Americans are fighting for the things promised to all by the Constitution: freedom, justice, equality. The ACLU is leading the fight to protect our civil liberties. Together, we can protect and advance our rights nationwide, because we the people means all of us.
This land was made for you and me.
Learn how the ACLU is defending the right to vote, free speech, and other civil liberties at myaclu.org.
Hey, boss. Okay.
He said I'm fine.
With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it, and we lost it.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.
I'm Naheem Hines, professional football player and proud supporter of the Muscular Dystrophy Association. My mom was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy when I was 14, and I watched her struggle. But MDA helped her get the best treatments and care, and they also help kids like my buddy Ethan.
My name is Ethan. Thanks to the Muscular Dystrophy Association and people like you, I have more hope than ever before. From day one, they've treated me like family at my local care center. MDA is the only one that funds over 150 care centers across the U.S. to help provide state-of-the-art care for adults and kids like me.
MDA has been transforming the lives of people living with muscular dystrophy, ALS, and other related neuromuscular diseases. They fund the research for breakthrough treatments, care, and cures. And MDA provides support to thousands of families like mine and Ethan's in communities like yours. Thanks to MDA, kids and adults can live life to its fullest. Join us and learn more at mda.org today.
Life can throw a lot at us, but what helps us through it is knowing we have a place where we feel loved, grounded, and safe. A place where we belong. A place called home. But for thousands of youth living on the streets, there's no such thing as home. Out here, it's a predatory world that can destroy lives forever. At Covenant House, we care for homeless and at-risk youth, working in communities just like yours, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Here, these kids will get a shower, clean clothes, nourishing meals, and a safe place to sleep. Our caring staff teach life skills, offer stability, and encourage kids to believe in themselves so they stay off the streets for good. We're committed to giving lost, scared, and hurting children a place to go, a place to call home. To help or get help, go to safeplacetosleep.org.
How you doing, community? I'm Alexander Hackett, and I'm here today to talk about Community Staffing Agency. I am the owner of an educational staffing firm, and what we do is we staff all the schools in Delaware with substitute teachers, paraprofessionals, janitorial, and even substitute nurse. So if you have a school and you need our services, please contact me. But also, if you're in the community right now and you're looking for a job, please find me. And the way you can find me is by visiting communitystaffinagency.com, but also get into my direct line, 302-252-8982. Please contact me, please reach out. If you need assistance with your school or if you're looking to get into school, Community Staffing Agency is the place to be.
Hey, this is Pastor Curry, pastor of the Zion Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and anything you can do about it. What we're going to do today is we're going to have a real good conversation. I'm excited. Come on! Every Sunday at 11 a.m. Why don't you call somebody real quickly? Tell them Coffee with Curry is on. And let's get after it. And we're back. Coby, what's going on with the Coby Corner this week?
Yeah, so I want to kick off, I always do my federal level first. Mm-hmm. So there's a few things going on. Right now, the U.S. House and Senate are in budget negotiations about whether they're going to do a continuance resolution through reconciliation to get a continuing resolution for a year, right? What does that mean? That's how we fund the government right now instead of actually passing a balanced budget. And what I'm nervous about is what is included in these cuts. We know there's going to be cuts. We just don't know where exactly they're going to be. But we have a very strong feeling that some of those cuts are going to come from the Department of Education. Why is that? Because Trump is also preparing to put out an executive order that would eliminate the Department of Education. This would impact HBCUs. This would impact student loans. This would impact the nearly 4,000 individuals that actually work in the department as well, too. There is some constitutional issues he may have there because the Department of Elections was, I'm so used to saying Department of Elections. Mm-hmm. Department of Education was created by legislation. Mm-hmm. So if he is not able to flat out eliminate it, he may go with a route where he defunds it, rolls it back to very bare bone, department and everything like that. Again, this is a chaotic plan of his that he is trying to put into play. Very similar to how he wanted to roll back the Department of Energy when he was in the first time, but that never actually happened. They are trying to figure out what legal action and authority he really has. And like I said in the last section, the Supreme Court pretty much gave him carte blanche, right? Mm-hmm. So they're trying to figure out what can be done, what can't be done. Trump says he took the oath to abide by the Constitution, but we've seen that's not true. But again, so we'll see what impact it is. Our DOE here, our Department of Education, has a new secretary, and they had their budget hearing the other day. They, as we talked about, only 10% of our budget for our state Department of Education comes from the federal government. Mm-hmm. Most of that money goes to reimbursement for 21st century funding and Title I funding, as well as the CEP program, which is the food program for individual children and for some full schools as well, too.
Right.
So again, the Department of Education has been a critical role for the U.S., especially when it comes to pushing diversity, affirmative action, especially after Brown versus the Board of Education, right? So again, when it comes to school segregation and stuff like that. Trump's trying to eliminate all that. So again, we'll see what happens with this push.
Can I just add to what you're saying? For those of you who are watching us, I want to make sure you understand that the 10% may look small because we got 90% of our budget that comes from the state for the Department of Education. But the 10% affect the poorest among us, those who are challenged scholastically, children who need additional assistance. And a lot of times that's in our communities. And while it may not look like it's big, if it is defunded, you will see horrible situations going on. Children won't be able to eat lunch. Sometimes the only place children get to have a meal is at school. You may not see it in your neighborhood, but it happens. And that's why I want some of the legislation that was pushed where you can't embarrass a child because they owed $1 or whatever. I think we really need to keep our eyes on this. And Trump is doing this deliberately because he thinks it's only going to hurt Black and brown people. But I think I hope he's starting to realize it's hurting his people just as much as it's hurting Black and brown people.
Absolutely. The areas that would be impacted the most are Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas. Know anything similar about all of them? They were the strongest Trump voting states out there. Maybe not Georgia as strong, but again, he won all those states. Those would be the areas that would be impacted the most. And yes, we know that we have a little extra money in our budget that could hold us for 2-3 years. We'll struggle for that 4th year. Hopefully we'll get some funding when a new president comes in. But those other states don't have budgets like us. So again, we got to care about our neighbors as well too. I'm worried about our kids here and how this will impact them. But then also just across this nation, we're already falling behind.
Yeah.
This is not how we become more competitive.
Yeah.
And this isn't a Democrat versus Republican thing. This is, this is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a Trump versus poverty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we will see where this goes. But hopefully he does not have the power to just flat out eliminate, eliminate the Department of Education. But I really do fear that we will be in a bad situation for a while if he does.
Yeah.
Next, I want to talk about what's going on here. So as you know, Elon Musk lost a Chancery Court decision here about his buyout from Tesla, and then he used that money to buy Twitter and turn it to X. And because he lost that decision, he has been attacking Delaware nonstop. Him and Trump, for individual billionaires and these business owners who didn't support Trump, if they want to get back in his good graces, you got to leave Delaware and reincorporate somewhere else to show Delaware they shouldn't. We shouldn't have a court like we do. So corporations like Meta have now, are now leaving. Tesla, SpaceX, all of them are leaving X.
I didn't know SpaceX was here.
Okay. All of them are incorporated here.
Okay.
So a bill has been introduced. It has the support of both Democrats and Republicans, I believe. Leadership in both the House and the Senate, and Matt, our governor, all support it. Again, this is to try to persuade the remaining companies to stay incorporated here in the first state. And again, they're saying this is not a part of Delaware's routine annual corporate law update, which again is recommended by the Delaware Bar Association. But this legislation, SB 21, is attempting to bring clarity and balance back to Delaware corporate laws after a flurry of high-profile companies have either exited the first state or threatening to do so. The prime sponsor is Senator Brian Towson, who's a career attorney focused on corporate litigation. And this is what it does, right? So we are nationally recognized for our corporate laws here. And businesses that operate in Delaware, close to 68% of Fortune 500 companies, not only are incorporated here, but have the legal ideal structure here. This is why we have so many corporate attorneys here. We have the Delaware Court of Chancery, which utilizes experts in judges to decide corporate cases rather than just juries, right? So again, that's why it's so friendly. It brings in about $2 billion annually to the state. It's the state's second highest revenue source behind just our personal income tax, right? So again, what this is going to do is change how litigation can be brought against corporations. So it takes away the power of minority stakeholders, right? So, and gives it back to the majority stakeholders. This is coming after years of going back and forth with Tesla. And Elon Musk hates one of our chancellors, Kathleen McCormick, because she blocked what would have been the largest CEO compensation deal in U.S. history, which would have been a pay package worth $56 billion for Elon Musk. So he has been using his wealth to go and fight that. So again, we will see what the outcome of this is. I do not think that they should pass this bill. But some of the companies that are threatening to leave us are Meta, which is the parent company of both Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, has been in talks about reincorporating into Texas. The host service for the company for Dropbox is considering moving to Nevada. And Bill Ackerman, I don't know if you remember that name, but he's the CEO of Square Capital Management, announced that they are moving from Delaware to reincorporate in Nevada. Now, y'all may not remember Bill, but I remember Bill. Bill was the white billionaire who decided that the black president of Harvard was not qualified and was a DEI hire.
Yeah.
And went after her. He pulled all his money from Harvard, was encouraging others to pull their money because he did not like that a black woman was in charge. Because that black woman said, listen, at the end of the day, kids have the right, the students have the right to free speech.
Right.
And we should be a university, as one of the oldest universities in America, should uphold their First Amendment rights, even if you don't agree with them. So again, this is what we're dealing with. And it takes away the power from minority stakeholders to, again, sue the company. Elon Musk got 70% of Tesla's stakeholders to vote in favor of giving him this compensation package. 21% filed enough stakeholders that total 21% of the company ended up filing a lawsuit against this, and it went in their favor. So this is why this has been such a big back and forth on this. And we will be following this. It was just introduced again with HB 50, which is the energy fund money, and with SB 21, they have been introduced, pre-filed, but the General Assembly does not come back in from JFC break until the second week in March. So once they are back, we will be following that very closely.
Right.
But also, talking about JFC, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, JFC is the Joint Finance Committee, and they are going through their hearings now as Matt is about to introduce his first state budget as governor. So during these hearings, you hear from the different departments. And this week, the longest committee hearing was the Department of Education for Delaware, which requested a 9% budget increase. While many legislators talked about concerns over student outcomes, and seeing that, our kids are doing worse and worse. I also want to give a shout out to my senator, Senator Darius Brown, who not only asked questions around that, but also asked questions around adult learning as well too. And under that department includes our prison learning as well too. So again, making those better and have better outcomes as well too for the state. The public education funding makes up about a third of our operating budget here in Delaware, with the, and is the largest spending category for Delaware, totaling 36% of our operating dollars, which is a little over $2 billion. Last year, it was $2.16 billion. So for the FY 2025, with an additional $200 million, largely going to personnel, salaries, and enrollment growth as well too, for different positions, mental health professionals and everything in the schools. So again, but we also saw a record low, for student outcomes, right? I know in our areas, most of the schools in the city of Wilmington are in the single digits of proficiency when it comes to math, English learning, language arts. So again, we have to do better as a state. We can't just keep throwing money at the issue and not actually fix it.
But has that been addressed directly? I know we're in budget talks, but okay, if we want 9% increase, we're going to make sure that we be more efficient in A, B, C, and D. Is that type of stuff talked about?
So Matt is looking into that. He brought someone in who's done that in other districts where she was superintendent at. But then also, he has to get the General Assembly to agree to put a bill forth to change the funding mechanism for the state. We are very much resource weighted, right? It's a student pupil rated system, right? Funding system. If you're a school, I'm a school, you serve 100 kids, I serve 100 kids, you get $50, I get $50, right? But the school you serve is in a low income area, where you're more likely to have more individuals who are experience learning disabilities, let's say autism and things where you need more resources at. We still get the same $50. So we have to spend it the same. You don't have much money to be flexible. If it's a pupil-based system, okay, you have 100, I have 100, but my 100 are good. They're doing well. I still get my $50. Now you get an additional $75, right? So now you have an operating budget of $125 to kind of be more flexible with your students. That's how something like that would work, right? To get them the actual resources that they need to achieve and become successful. Delaware test scores as well, too. I do want to bring this up. So we test everyone in our SATs, right? Which means when we report back out for national, our numbers are going to be lower because in other states, they don't have to test everyone. They test the top of the top, and that's how they rank so much higher. They do not test.
Is there a law in the state of Delaware we have to test everyone?
I believe that changed under Ruth Ann Menor during her first term.
And that's when Delaware started going down in its numbers.
Yeah, but then also that's when they created the tiered diploma, the 3-tiered diploma, the race to the top and all that stuff. No Child Left Behind, where really they just push kids through instead of actually getting them the knowledge that they needed to achieve. And again, at the end of the day, most of these jobs that people are getting now or you learn on the job. It's your degree isn't helping you. Your high school education isn't helping you. They need to change some of these courses in high school. I get it. You got to teach for a test, but teach people how to budget. Yeah. Teach people how to manage their money, how to do a trade,
and how to read too.
How to read.
Yeah.
Don't even ask the kids today to do cursive.
Or sign their name.
I was on the tail end of that.
Yeah, well, man, it's funny. A young man had to come sign an application, and I said, "You got to sign your name." He wrote his name. Mm-hmm. I said, "No, sign it." He said, "That is my signature."
Yep.
That's sad. Mm-hmm. That is sad.
And I don't have the best handwriting, but at least I know cursive. I can read cursive as well too, but it is rough for a lot of individuals. And then the last thing I want to update y'all on City Council. So there's an ordinance that is being heard this Wednesday in my committee, the Health, Environmental, Aging, and Disabilities Committee, to temporarily suspend the issuance of business licenses for retail marijuana stores, as well as we have a busy committee. So we have 4 resolutions, one to support HB3, which is an act to amend the Delaware Code relating to breastfeeding in correction facilities. HB 15.
Wait, before you go to 15, help me, because you're our seniors, and we're going to take the time to let you finish. First, so there's people who are in prison with children?
There's people, when they first go into prison,
right.
They're not able to kind of breastfeed. Mm-hmm. So this would give them the ability to at least produce the milk and then be able to give it out to their child, so that the child can still have the normal breast milk.
Okay.
This is during that transition period. So those first, I don't think they would allow it for past a year, but for at least a few months, so that they still have that proper nutrition.
Okay.
The next one is which I think is a huge bill, is HB 15 by Representative Ray Moore. That allows for more social emotional learning to be implemented, especially in early childhood education, here across the state of Delaware. HB 35, which is a constitutional amendment, to prohibit the death penalty here in Delaware, is the first leg of it. And then a resolution supporting SB 5, which is, again, a constitutional amendment to add reproductive freedom as a right enshrined in our Constitution here. So, again, those are the 3 ones. We also have a presentation from our friends at Network Connect in the food bank. And then we have a special council meeting on the 27th. If that ordinance passes out my committee, then it will be on the agenda for the next night.
Go back to SB 5.
Yes.
Reproduction. Explain that a little bit better for us.
Yes. So because all reproductive rights are being under attack, right? Okay. So it's so much more than just abortion, right? Mm-hmm. It's a woman's opportunity to control her own body, whether it's IVF, whatsoever, right? Mm-hmm. So having a child when you want to have a child with your own body, it is not considered a freedom here anywhere, right? Especially with Roe being overturned. It has never been enshrined. SB 5, it's the same number. I don't know why they keep going to SB 5. Almost 7 years ago was enshrined in our Constitution, the right to an abortion, right? This expands that and allows for all reproductive decisions to be a right, and it's your right, which means Delaware can never go back and pass a law saying, hey, like, we have to track your ovulation. We have to track your exams and stuff like that. This is legislation we're seeing pop up all over this nation right now. They want to ban birth control. They want to ban, they want to ban all these things. They're saying conception starts when a woman first becomes pregnant, right? That's when life starts. There's some Democrats who are hitting back as like, well, it starts at ejaculation. So then if you're not doing that to procreate, then that should be illegal too.
And I agree with that.
So again, you have people just being petty on both sides, but you're playing with people's lives, right? And I am a believer that you should have the freedom and the ability to do what you want with your body. You should have control over your body as long as it's not harming anyone else. Okay. So again, this is the first leg. It's supported by leadership in both chambers. And I believe Governor Matt is also a huge supporter of this. So this is just, again, an individual's fundamental right to reproductive freedom, which entitles the right to make decisions that all matters related to pregnancy, parental care, birth, childbirth, postmortem care, conception, sterilization, abortion care, miscarriage management, and fertilization care as well too. So
well, it seems like y'all are very busy on that committee.
Yes.
You ain't got good. First of all, we know about the committee. Now all of a sudden there's a whole lot of activity going on.
And this is only our second meeting.
Yeah.
So wait until next month when we bring in all the seniors to talk about senior housing, right? Yeah. So again, we are very busy. That's where we're at with things right now, but I'm looking forward to moving forward.
Well, I'm very grateful. How are we doing with the budget? Aren't you on that committee as well?
So I am not on the finance committee. The only new person on that committee is Hackett.
Okay.
But budget talks start in probably he'll do his budget. Mayor Carney will do his budget presentation and budget address probably in March, and then budget hearings start into March into April.
Yeah. Now, there's two things I want to hit, and we're gonna call it quits for the day because we've been on and we both had a lot of stuff to talk about today. Two things. One, 311.
Yes.
Is it getting any better?
Not right now.
Okay.
They are trying to find ways to make it better. They have added an additional position to constituent service to handle some of those back end complaints as well too. The department had 2 people in it. And they were doing the best as they possibly can, but as you know, it becomes a quantity issue, right? There is just way too many complaints coming in. So they have added 1 position in. Hopefully with this new budget coming out, they add at least 2 more positions in. I'm pushing also for just some reforms to 311. The online form works great. Mm-hmm. People do not complain about that. It's the call center that they are complaining about. So trying to figure out what we can do best with that, or do we just need to go ahead and say 311 wasn't the best idea and go back to you can reach out to constituent service and fully set up that office again.
Now, the county doesn't have a 311.
Correct.
And I had several people come to me saying already they can feel the help. Mm-hmm. They're getting responses. There's a gentleman that's the constituent service director. I guess his name is Greg Gross. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, from the A to Z, he has really followed through on several events and situations that happen in the county. Mm-hmm. Why can't the city sit down with the county and say, you're serving more people than we're serving? How is it working for you and it's not working for us?
So again, our department has been stripped down. Pizicki did not hire a director of constituent service. And he left it like that for a reason, because he wanted this 311 to work so bad. And he didn't care how many people complained about it. It was his idea, his initiative. This is why I said we have to have a fully operating constituent service office. Mm-hmm. And the 3 people down there right now, they're doing their best. Miss Tanya is absolutely amazing. I call her a wizard, for how she's able to, facilitate that office on such a shoestring budget, and shoestring resources as well too. But again, they need more help down there. Okay. And that's what everyone should be pushing. How can we get more help into that office, so that we can serve our residents? And I think it's a conversation that all council members need to have with the mayor's side to make sure that we're making that a priority.
Have there been conversations with Sharon and the mayor directly about this particular office?
So not directly to the mayor. Before Saran came on, Daniel Walker was the acting chief of staff. So at least me and him have had conversations about this. I don't know if any other council members have brought it up just yet. I know it's probably going to get brought up during the budget season though. But I have not had my sit down yet with Saran now that he's in the position.
And let me tell you, it feels so good to be able to get an answer. The county really did a good job with his hire. I even had to ask the gentleman, where did you come from? Even though he came from county government, but he was somewhere hid.
Right.
And he really follows up. And not because Pastor Curry called, because there was a couple of people who told me they called constituent services and they got return calls. They got things solved. We really got to get this to work, because if we can get this to work, it'll help us with a lot of other things that's going on in our city. Mm-hmm. Coby, our time is totally up. We ran over time today because you wasn't here last week because you decided to go to the Eagles parade probably. But let me say to you, well done, and you're doing a great job with the city. And people are speaking of how the county is coming together. Not the county, the city is coming together with the city council. Yes. And I'm very grateful for that. And I'm praying that you continue to work with the current mayor as he's trying to put his agenda across and make some things happen for our city. So, Coby, is there anything else left on your calendar for today?
Nothing else for me.
Well, listen, until the next time, God bless.
Take care, y'all.
You've been watching The Sword with host Dr. C.T. Curry and co-host Coby Owens. Tune in every Sunday at 5 p.m. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for the latest episodes. Join us live for our weekly worship. Every Sunday at 9 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube.
Well, Pastor, I'm doing the best I can, but I still gotta have a little Chardonnay, and I still gotta have a little this, and I gotta still sneak around. The devil is a liar. That's an excuse.
Wilmington's most exciting church.